Hey kids, I am starting week 2 in P-Town. We're having a grand old time. I am back on the roof deck. Next week I will be back in Boston. It's been an interesting week. The weather's been rainy a lot last week, but we still had a grand old time. And it was also interesting because we were all sitting watching a movie one night, and there was this loud crack. And bright light flashing, our ears are ringing, it literally knocks us up, two of us onto the floor. And it was lightning. And so we were like, wow, that was really close. Little did we know until 10 minutes later that we heard the fire trucks coming in. There was about 9 fire trucks here. That the lightning had hit the townhouse next to us, and it started a fire. Only in Provincetown, only with us. So what ended up happening was the lightning hit the townhouse next to us, and then the fire engines came, and the fire engines did not have enough hose to put the fire out, so they had to call for reinforcement. That was interesting too. So I'm actually wearing a cowboy hat because we are having Carnival Week in Provincetown this week, and the theme this year is Wild Wild West, so we figured might as well get in character. That, and I also had 6 friends come and visit me from Boston yesterday and had a great time on an awesome day trip. And wish they could have stayed the entire weekend. And by the way, the decorations all around P-Town are giant inflatable horses covering everything. There's just giant stagecoaches, giant longhorn glitter thingies on sides of hotels and all that. It's really neat. It's a grand old time. So there are just people everywhere wearing cowboy outfits, Indian outfits, lots of assless chaps with thongs. We'll go there. Okay, so let's get to the questions for today because I need to get to the beach. Okay, Sophia, you asked what personality traits of ours we would like to change. I have the 3 P's. I have punctuality, patience, and procrastination. I'm always late for everything. I'll be the first one to admit it. I don't mean to be. I operate on mark time. Patience, I'm patient. I could be a little more patient. I tend to get a little more wound up when it's not somebody I know or dealing with certain situations. I get tensed up. And procrastination, I am always putting off things and then realizing I don't have enough time to get them done right, but I'm working on it. Bob, you asked what we wanted to be when we were 8 years old. You're not gonna believe this one. I know I'm opening myself to all kinds of comments, but I wanted to be a Roman Catholic priest. Okay, so now when I was 14, I wanted to do something with glass art and glass design. I always thought that would be really cool. Not so much glass blowing, but making giant sculptures and maybe even furniture out of glass. Okay, now the 20s get a little tricky for me. When I was 20, I didn't really have my priorities set right, shall we say. And I can't really tell you what I wanted to be when I was 20, because I don't think I wanted to necessarily be anything. I was a lost child at that point in time. I'm not going into detail. Okay, now Megan, since I'm probably the grandfather of the group, your question's a little tricky. Actually, for Nickelodeon, really liked Wild and Crazy Kids and Double Dare because there really wasn't the biggest variety of programming on Nickelodeon when I was at the age that I would actually be watching Nickelodeon. Alright, William, you asked, first of all, thank you for doing our Friend Friday. And you asked whether we would choose friendship or love. This may sound like a cop-out, but I don't ever believe that you should ever have to choose between it. I think everything should sort itself out. If it comes down to a decision, it's usually the decision has been made for me, so I don't think I would ever have to choose, and that was a bug. I think every instance is totally different, so I don't think you can totally blanket statement saying either friendship or love. Okay, now for my question for this week. A friend of mine, Jefferson, had actually wanted me to ask, why do straight people wear socks with sandals? But that's not going to be my question for today. You can all feel free to ask that or answer that one if you'd like. Okay, so I had to move this to another deck because I was about to ask my question, and then I realized that there's a family coming out onto the next roof deck that included a very small child, so I didn't want to maybe necessarily offend the people that were there. So my question for this week is actually related to the carnival theme, since there are so many people roaming around just like cowboys and Indians, and a lot of them are wearing nothing more than a bandana around their neck and assless chaps and a thong. Yeah. Just a little secret between us. Just because you can get your butt into a thong and assless chaps does not mean that you should be getting your butt into assless chaps and a thong. So my question is, what do you feel about the way a lot of times we tend to portray ourselves to the general public? Like, if you look at some of the pride parades, there's always the person dressed in the assless chaps with the peacock feathers sticking out of their ass and a glitter bedazzled vest. My thoughts on that are a double-edged sword. I mean, we're trying to tell people how normal we are and everything and how we're just like everybody else, but when do you see straight people generally in public wearing leather from head to toe, dragging somebody else around by a leash around their neck and dressed up like fairies throwing glitter and to celebrate who they are? So it's just, I understand their right to do it, and I celebrate them doing it, and don't get me wrong, I love a good drag queen as much as the next person. But I sometimes question whether we're putting the right face out there. Your thoughts? I mean, I kind of call it, I know this sounds bad, but trailer park syndrome. Like, if you ever see tornado coverage from somewhere, they always seem to pick the person that is living in a trailer and the tornado hit the trailer park and they lost their dog flying away somewhere and they don't know where it went. Everybody have a great week. I will be back in Boston next week, and Sophia, I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, kids. Okay, and I'm not judging, but a little twink just came skipping down the driveway of the townhouses that we're in, wearing brown suede chaps, no ass of course, a black jock strap, and a black wife beater hanging off the back of his chaps, so it hit his chocolate starfish, and that way he wouldn't get arrested, and took his walk of shame and skipped right up the steps. 10 minutes later, he comes out in a Speedo. Wow, I kind of feel like I'm riding a horse on this patio chair. Save a horse, ride a cowboy.